Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is not an agent, but she makes agents look good, makes the homes they are selling look fabulous. She's a Navy veteran where she supervised a radar navigation team on the USS Gunston Hall, worked at the JAG, and operated a $30 million landing craft radar navigation and communication. She owns and operates the iSite imaging, real estate photography, and 3D marketing company, serving realtors and business owners in the Jacksonville, Florida area. As a team, we enjoy creating original digital media to aid in the selling of property. Let's welcome Deidra Young to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Tracy.
Thank you for coming on. I know I gave you late notice, so you helped me out there, but I think I was looking back in the last messages I sent you. I think it was almost a year ago. We chatted a little bit on there, but I always like to bring in, the services that are supporting. That's why it's called real estate excellence, not real estate agent excellence or mortgage banker excellence or anything. It's real estate excellence, and bringing in, because our community is pretty big. There's a lot of different people involved, photographers, insurance agents, et cetera, that go on. And every time a house is transacted.
Yes, it's a very big market.
Right. I want to compliment you on the navigation. And I don't know exactly what you did, but I did take Naval ROTC. And in junior year of Naval ROTC, you have to take navigation. Now, I didn't go into the Navy, but I went to the Military College of South Carolina, so we were required to take the course. But I did notice there's a lot of officers, a lot of my classmates did not get the A that I got. They were like C navigation guys.
Yeah.
So they needed someone like you to come in.
Yes, getting a C in naval navigation will get you lost. So I'm glad you didn't pursue that career path.
Well, no, I got the A. I got the A.
Oh, okay.
I got the I grew up on the water. I grew up on Cape Cod.
Yes.
And so I had a little bit more, not say any more knowledge than the other person, but maybe a little more passionate for it,
right?
In what was actually evolving. But there was quite a few. If there was any course during the entire Naval ROTC thing, a lot of them, that was the course where they didn't get their best grade. Let's put it that way. So I can appreciate what you were doing. So, Deidra, kick us off a little bit. I mentioned your slight accent there. If no one mentioned, where are you from?
I am originally from Northwest Georgia. I graduated high school and went to boot camp maybe a week and a half later.
Wow.
Yes, it was my first plane ride was to go to Great Lakes up in Chicago, Illinois. I did not really have a clue what I was doing. I just knew I did not want to stay in the small town that I was currently in and had just graduated.
Did you have family that were in the Navy prior to what was it that obviously you prior to graduating you were already going through the process?
Yes, my parents said they would pay for college.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I have to get there somehow. And I have uncles and great uncles, and I do have a strong military family background. No one had joined the Navy yet though. And so I thought that was probably going to be my path, and I figured at the very least, it was only 4 years, no harm, no foul if I didn't like it, and ended up staying in for 10.
Excellent. Now, obviously, they have you take the different tests, ASVAB and others things to see kind of where your skill level is at. And then, when you're at boot camp, they're evaluating to see what your MOS is going to be, right? Is it MOS? Is that, what do they call it?
I don't know what they call it
Whatever
now.
what you're going to do.
Right, your job.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they actually do that when you're going through MEPS, like your
Right.
processing. Before you ever go to boot camp, they've already assigned you to your career path. And then boot camp's just standard training for everyone. And then once that's completed, you go off to your A schools.
So did you pick something, or they pick something for you?
You basically, it's based on your ASVAB score, and depending on what you score, they give you a list of jobs that you were qualified to go to school for. It was so long ago, it was actually a Rolodex when they brought it to me.
Right.
And it's overwhelming because you're just like, wow, I don't know what a jet engine repairman is. And I mean, you're sitting with me now. Like, can you imagine me fixing jet engines? But so I was like, that looks out. And I remember going through them, and most of the schools were in Great Lakes following boot camp. And I was like, well, it's going to be cold up there. I don't want to be stuck there. There was one in particular that stood out to me. It was operations specialist, and it was in Virginia Beach. And I'm like, well, I've never been there. I've never even been to the beach.
It's not too far from home.
Right. I'm like, let's go with this one. So that's how I became an operations specialist. And ended up being a really, really good fit for
Well,
me.
you
actually.
re-enlisted because
Yes.
you spent 10 years.
10
So
years.
after your first enlistment's coming up and you're re-enlisting, what was it that you saw that you were like, hey, I kind of like this?
Well, my first after A school, it's where you learn your job. I had went to a ship and I worked in Combat Information Center, which is in all the movies, the really dark room with the green screens. I lived in that
The
20
red
hours
light,
a day.
right?
it was brutal actually.
Right.
Lots of years of sleep deprivation. But so I did that on a ship. Did several deployments, and the ship I was on, the Gunston Hall, was an amphibious ship, and they bring on LCACs, which is the landing craft, it's the hovercraft.
Right.
And we would take Marines ashore whenever we would be on the deployments. And I really found that just so exciting. They walked around in what we call jet jammies, the flight suits.
Right.
And they just seemed really cool. And their whole job is there's only like 5 crew members, and they're all enlisted. They're not officers. And there's a position on the craft, the navigator. Well, for some reason, I don't understand why or how, but God has blessed me with a very good gift of being really good at navigation because I was the navigation officer on the Gunston Hall.
Right.
And I was like, this is boring. I've already figured this out. What's next?
Exactly.
And that's when I was like, I want to go be on a hovercraft. And nobody on the ship wants to be like, oh, yeah, you should go do that. They're like, no, you're too important. You can't leave. And so I had to wait till that tour was over. And then I'm like, now's my time.
Right. Put in for the next.
Yeah. So you have to apply. It's a special program. So you have to go through a rigorous screening process to get into the school itself.
How is it as a young woman? Obviously, it's 99% male, I would imagine. I mean, how many women are on ship?
On the ships I was on, because we carried Marines, it was very few. Like, I would say less than 200 for 5,000 male.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Right. I mean, obviously, you seemed to do well. You re-enlisted. You didn't dislike it. You didn't have a bad time. But obviously, different strokes for different folks.
Right.
Going in there. Did you feel, especially as a young person, you're 19, 20, 21 years old, during this time period, that you were being empowered? What a lot of adults, you were responsible for a lot of things that a lot of adults have never been responsible for. As far as like you put on there $30 million, because most people don't understand this
That's
equipment.
a lot of money to hold.
Yeah, most people wouldn't let you drive their $50,000, $60,000 car, right? But they're gonna let you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, did it give you some empowerment there? I mean, how did you? It sounds like you were in charge of people too, right?
Yes,
You had
I had a lot of job satisfaction for sure. And actually separating at 10 years was a very difficult decision for me to make. I loved what I did. I loved my job. At the time, I'd started to have a family at that point, and it's actually really challenging to be a female in the military and then have children on top of that, and I don't want to say impossible, but there comes a time where, your children have to be your first choice in everything that you do. And that was the decision I had made, and I had to leave that behind. I'd go back in a heartbeat if I wasn't too old right now. So I don't.
Well, we appreciate your service, and I wanted to accent out there, because, for other young women, who may be in that situation where mom and dad aren't going to pay for college, they don't know where they're going. Maybe their grades weren't perfect in high school, or just don't know what they want to do.
I think even at that age, like, not everybody's ready to be a full-time student. And,
Right.
like, it's really good, especially if you come from, like, a smaller town, to get out there and experience life first. And just go see what is
See the
beyond
world.
your city limits.
Yeah.
Before you even decide on a career or a college major.
What were some of the countries that you visited that you liked?
Oh, wow. I've been all around South America. Like, if there was a country, the coast I had visited, I really enjoyed South Africa. Did a lot of African ports, everything in the Mediterranean. Couple of Gulf trips.
What would you say? What would be one that you would say, like, I'd like to go back there and see more?
Oh, South Africa. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
I was too afraid to do the shark tour the first time, where you get in the tank and then you go on where Penguin Island is. And I would think I would be brave enough to do it this time, but at such a young age, I was like, no way. I'm not gonna pay to get in a tank and have sharks swimming at me. So
all right. So we talked about a little bit. Appreciate you leave your enlistment's up after you re-enlisted the next thing. You're 2009 August, I think 2009, if I recall correctly. There, you do some certain things. You do some. You're raising your kids and that sort of thing. Family life, changes. When does the vision of iSite imaging come up? When does this was yeah, I mean, from a business standpoint, because you're doing a lot of the business background stuff. Your partner's doing a lot of the physical photography at the house and that sort of thing. But when do you start, when does this come about?
How did it evolve?
Yeah.
Interesting enough, because I had worked at JAG, I had gotten a office management position at like a legal office. And that's actually where I met my partner, Jake. And we were working there, and we went to go meet with a web developer one day because we were building a new site for this legal clinic. It was like a pro se where we would help people file paperwork. They were indigent; they couldn't afford an attorney, so we were just helping them do paperwork. And we worked there together, and so that's how we met. We go meet this web developer because we're getting a new website built, and oddly enough, he has this camera, and we're like, "What's that? It looks like a big brick, right?" I don't know if you've ever seen the Matterport camera.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
It's odd looking.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, it makes 3D models," and I'm like video games, and he's just like, "Yeah." And this is before it was really. I mean, this is 2016. I'm almost confident. I can't say with certainty that it was the very first camera here in Jacksonville. But when he showed it to us, he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I just can't get anybody to understand what it is, so it's not sticking for me. I'm going to sell it though. Do you guys? You want it?" And we're like,
"What kind of work was he doing?"
So he was working at the legal clinic with me, and
the person had the camera.
Web development. So he just liked tech. So he bought it to
check it out.
Toy. Yeah,
okay.
Just to see what it was doing.
Okay.
And at the time, I think he had done like maybe the surf shop down in St. Augustine. Like the owner was a friend of his, so he had done a model of his shop, and so he was able to show us a couple of things. He had only had like 3 scans on the camera, and we go back and we're sitting in this office. And I was like, and Jake, my partner, he actually has an active real estate license as well. And I was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. That is so cool. And he was like, yeah, but what, I mean, I'm like, no, I'm not talking legal. Like, we need that camera, and this needs to be in real estate. And this is really before anybody was using it, right?
Right.
We started putting it out there. Nobody knew what it was. It was the hardest thing to sell an agent on, to put. Was it one of those situations where someone had, obviously someone created that camera. Yes.
But they didn't know how to connect it to the market, even though it might have been designed for real estate. They just didn't know how to make the connection.
I don't think it originally was.
Oh.
And so at the time, everybody was like, yeah, but why do I need that? Or, or they just couldn't see how it could connect to their business as well. So it was actually a really hard sell for us in the beginning. But there's a couple of agents that when we would go and meet them, so we quickly ditched the legal clinic at that point, and I was like, we need to run full steam ahead with this. And then we bought the camera off of the gentleman and registered with Matterport our own account, and we were like one of the very first Matterport service providers in the area.
Wow.
And we were trying to get a go at that. And we were making a little bit of headway, but, a couple of agents were like, hey, we love working with you guys. Do you guys do photos by chance? And we're like, no, we just do Matterport. And then it took us a while. Like, we have to learn. We have to figure this out. We have to be.
Did you guys dive right into this, or are you still working at the law office too?
It had dissolved.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. So you were just full.
It was, the timing and alignment was
interesting.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
So. We had to go full steam ahead. I'm like, all right, well, let's get a camera. Let's learn how to shoot photography now. And lots and lots of hours watching YouTube and getting in photography groups and learning tutorials and, how do we shoot real estate photography? How do we bring the products and services that these clients need so that they're only booking with us? They're not scheduling us to do a Matterport, and then they've got to call another photographer to come do the pictures, and then another one. And then we had my ex-husband at the time, well, the husband at the time, we had a drone as well because he's a pilot. And so then I'd have to schedule him separately to go out and do aerials. And like, it was just getting way too complicated way too quickly. And so I'm like, we just have to.
And the agent's got to go back out there, and there's the logistics of that.
So we very quickly learned we had to learn it be one-stop shop. And we started turning and burning to do that. And I would say within like 6 months, we had full service packages up and running, and been doing that ever since. So,
how has the I imagine the Matterport's improved?
Yes.
Over that time, they've come out with whether it's new tech.
They have like 3 different camera models now that they've evolved since the original. Yeah.
And then from the equipment from the drone, I imagine those have improved too, more, higher quality resolution or whatever you call it in the photography world. And the cameras, how often, is that one of the things you say on here, we're geeks that absolutely love tech. I stole that from one of your things there. Being in that world, you can get totally evolved into tech and not actually be doing what you need to be doing.
So sometimes, you can start chasing your tail a little bit with like, oh, a new camera body came out, let's go get it, or or oh, there's this new, like for instance, we have another another 3D camera that's specifically for just doing Zillow 3D tours, completely separate equipment. And so sometimes it can be good because we want to know like what equipment's working and what's producing results for our
Why is there 2 different pieces of equipment?
Matterport's its own beast.
So Zillow is not compatible or something in some way?
So you can actually upload a Matterport tour to Zillow now. Originally, you could not. If you did a Matterport tour, you could just put the link on MLS and you could share it on social media, but it did not syndicate with Zillow. It does now. If you upload MLS, your Matterport link into MLS, it will show literally in the images on Zillow now. Years ago, it did not.
Okay.
Zillow has since developed their own platform to produce 3D tours as well. As soon as they launched that, I would say that was probably about 3 years ago. We quickly was like, all right, we have to get the gear to do this too. And it's really great because, it was a lot more cost effective. So we're able to offer that service for properties that, maybe aren't in the $300,000 to $400,000 and plus market. And, an agent has like a 250, if those even exist still right now.
I know, really.
But it was a nice budget option for us to offer agents that maybe couldn't spring for Matterport on their listings, but they really needed a 3D option. So just if we're not brand specific, so if it's a service that our clients need, we're going to get it.
Besides the actual equipment here, whether it's we'll call it the Zillow camera or the Matterport, obviously the equipment themselves, I'm sure, has a different price, but in the process that you're actually doing back office and enhancing the images or whatever, is there a cost difference after that? No, it's really just the actual physical, or is there really a big difference between the cost of the equipment?
Well, so we shoot Sony, and the bodies can get the camera, and then you have different lens. Like, I mean, they all come, just depends on what you're getting. Like, they're thousands of dollars. So.
Right. Well, I'm talking from the 3D, the Matterport versus that Zillow.
Yes, actually, you can see a difference between a Matterport and a Zillow 3D tour. I think that Matterport's a more higher end quality. You get better image quality. You can get the dollhouse model. I don't know if you've ever clicked through a Matterport tour before.
I have.
You don't get that on a Zillow tour. You get you're kind of clicking through, but it's not true 3D, and you're not getting that dollhouse view where you're seeing the actual image of the entire structure. And they just, in the past year, maybe you can actually produce a floor plan from a Zillow 3D as well, but it's very generic looking. It doesn't come with a lot of the same details that a Matterport one was. So it's just, they're not really, I mean, they're both a 3D product, but they're
the quality level and the options or whatever you want to call it. When you approach, and because I know this has got to happen, whether it's in a social setting or maybe you have an opportunity to talk in front of a real estate group and so forth. We know there's a good percentage of agents out there that are trying to do their own thing with their cell phone.
Right.
Which the cell phones take great pictures. How do you respond to that? What is your how do you take them? How do you politely take them down? Let's put it that way.
Well, no one likes to be sold to.
Yeah.
I learned that, and I'm a terrible salesman actually. We can talk about the property, and you can kind of tell me about it, and I can suggest like, hey, I think that this would show well for it, and X, Y, and Z. But like, I am awful when it comes to like if someone books photos, I'm not sitting there like, hey, do you want to add on a video too? Like, I don't know. We don't operate that way, but. In regards to like the agents that are utilizing their cell phone, obviously we can 100% without any, like I'm very confident we can produce a much better product than they will ever be able to. And I don't care what cell phone you have.
Can you tell when you look at listings, other people's listings, or what they're using?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, it goes into the theory like the pots and pans don't make the chef, right? So just because you have the right pot doesn't mean you're going to make this amazing dish either. And it's the same with a cell phone. Just because you have the latest iPhone does not mean you're going to be able to produce professional looking images for your listing because you're not a photographer. So
this is this is a off the sheet question. What are some things that you notice when you do kind of, well, I would imagine, I know I do. I go in to see what are the where the agents are doing their loans at, who they're doing them with, right? Or or if they even have a committed loan officer. But when you go in and you say, I'd really like to talk to this agent. Do you go in and look at some of their listings, or maybe see some of their listings? And go, oh, I need to go talk to this person.
In the beginning, I would say that was probably a tactic that we would use to kind of acquire clients because we'd be like, oh, I think I could help them out, but they have to come to the realization, I think sometimes that like, oh, there's someone out there that can give the service a little bit better, or because nobody wants for you to come like, hey, I don't think your pictures are up to par. Like,
right.
So,
well, I mean, before you go and talk to them, you are scouting out to see what they've been doing, right? I mean, that's, I would imagine.
Not really.
Not really. Okay,
no.
well, I'd recommend that. What are some, when you do look at other, especially these people using the cell phones, or maybe even other professionals, because some people grab the camera and say, I do this service, but maybe they're not really, obviously Jake's taking a lot of the pictures, right? Jake?
Yes,
okay.
Jake.
Jake's taking a lot of the pictures, so, over the years, he's probably gotten better.
Yes.
Type of thing. So what are some of the like simple mistakes, obvious things like you're seeing when you're looking at someone's photos and let's go, these aren't really good. And it's a 2 or 3 things that you're seeing them not do, or that they're doing and they're doing it wrong.
Okay, so the very first thing that I could point out is on the exterior of a home. If that home looks like it's leaning in any way, like it's tilting to one side or leaning back, it's because their verticals are off. They're not using a tripod to set up their shots.
Right.
You can do a lot of that correction in your post-editing process too, but that is a frequent mistake that I see. And that carries into the home too, because you'll look, and doorways aren't necessarily straight up and down, which we call those verticals in photography. You won't be able to do what's called window pulls, where on the inside of the house, the windows always will look blown out if you're not setting your shots up properly.
Blown out meaning?
They just look like white light.
Oh, okay.
Like, so when we set up our photography, you can actually see what's outside of the window. Sometimes I have to Photoshop cars out. like Jake, you park in front of the living room window.
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, you should be able to see out the windows on your interior images on your listing photography. So those are 2 big dead giveaways.
I can see where people don't think about that, but that's kind of obvious.
It makes
right?
the images look very crisp when you when you don't have bursts of light coming from the windows.
I've got a bunch of stats here.
Okay.
All right. And, I'm sure a lot of the agents, anyone listening to this, if you haven't heard these before, it's got to be, you're not getting involved in your, maybe you're not doing a lot of listings. Maybe you're a buyer's agent, so you're not worried about this, but the listing side. This came right from NAR. This is a statement from them. Statistics by the National Association of Realtors show that 87% of home buyers on the internet find images to be among the most useful features of listing websites. This is why viewers spend 60% of the time checking images, and only 20% are reading that listing description you did on ChatGPT.
Right.
Yeah. listings with professional photos earn 1,200% increase in social media shares. I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit pre-show that you guys started a social media side to help the agents
Yes.
get these images out there for them. I mean, do you think? I mean, that's a huge number. I mean,
Yes.
1,200% more in shares. It's, I guess, I mean, we can almost relate that to someone, seeing a good reel and saying, "Oh, that's funny," and sharing it with their
Right.
friends, the same way they would share an attractive looking house that you've done professionally.
I mean, it's kind of the same concept as, like, there's a lot of data you can pull from looking at an image. Like, you can see the flow of a room, you can see the features that it has, the flooring, the wall colors, lighting. You can pull a lot from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the same thing as, do you want to read a book or do you want to watch a movie? It's very similar kind of concept. That's why they're not reading the listing descriptions. They want to just see the pictures, because you can look at those and they can make decisions very quickly if that is a home that they're interested in or not, based on what they visually see in about 10 seconds.
Really, I was going to say, I was going to follow up with it. Like, they're
very
making that
quickly,
decision.
They're going to make a decision based on the images they're seeing. So if your marketing and your images are not good for those homes, like, you're potentially blowing the opportunity for buyers to take that home seriously.
The buyers, and then I'm going to turn it the other way. If you're an agent and you know these statistics, you're saying, "Hey, I'm coming in and I'm professional, and I use Deidra and iSite, and we're going to do professional photos because we know these photos are going to be seen by a lot more people. The statistics show it."
Yes.
Yeah. Great. I think is right now the competitiveness from agents in their listing appointments in competing against other agents is pretty high right now.
Yes, and I would definitely, if I was an agent, 100%, and I'm not saying this because I'm a photographer, I would not want to market a home without images. Like, and it's not even necessarily about the home that you're sitting there in the listing presentation with. It's about the next one and then the next one, and how you're setting yourself up and your brand and your reputation and what your value is to your client when you're going to market and sell their home.
There's another statistic on here that you just brought up, let's see if I can find it. But it was talking about, here, 73% of homeowners say they're more likely to list with a realtor.
You better say it right.
Realtor, yes. I get corrected all the time. I have to pull back my tongue when I say realtor, who uses video to sell their property.
Yes.
And we just got done talking about the quality of the video. They're going to make a decision right away. But imagine someone, "Hey, I'm looking to sell my house." Man, that person really does a great presentation when really it's your work, but they're obviously attributing to the realtor that brought you in. And 73% are more likely to choose that real estate agent.
I think that's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, why would you want to be in the 20-something% that's not going to get a listing because you're not using a professional as a partner in your marketing?
Right. I mentioned it a little bit when we were talking pre-show. The NAR lawsuit has. I'm not going to quiz you on that, but
listen, I just take the photos.
Exactly. But what it's really narrowed down to is the buyer's agent not explaining the value that they do. And we love real estate agents. You and I know the work they put in behind the scenes. It's like I use the iceberg analogy. Most people only see the surface. They don't see what they're doing, on their computers back home, digging the holes inside the yard, let alone picking weeds or anything else that needs to be done to sell that house. Those that are dedicated. But part of your value now is explaining, "Hey, I'm going to have professional photos done. I'm investing in your house. I haven't gotten paid yet. You don't pay them up front, but they're going to invest in your service to come out." And that is added value for that realtor to get that listing.
It definitely helps in their case when they're in the listing presentation. And honestly, very rarely have I had an agent come back to us after the fact, like, "Hey, I lost that listing," and like they've invested in our services and it's a wash for them. Like, it's very rarely happened. So,
Well, we looked at well, I've got your YouTube page up here beside me, but a lot of the social media, especially if you're putting it on YouTube or the Zillow listing, someone goes back in there and puts that address in. Those images are what come up. And if you've got your stamp on this, wow, the last person that sold my house, I don't know who the selling agent was. I only know my buyer's agent. Man, look at the photos that they did. Wow, these are awesome. I need to call that agent. I think they discount that. I don't think they realize that these images are eternal, right?
Their name is attached to this.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is interesting. You're tipping on this a little bit. Lead with your best foot forward. 80.2% believe the front photo is the most important picture in a shoot. Make sure this photo is truly stunning.
So you can't be leaning back.
Right. But how many times we've gone into
well, you got to think when you're okay, so like on Instagram you see photos like in real format or in grid format. It's the same way on Zillow. When you're looking and you're seeing 10 houses pop up when you're searching in a certain zip code, you're looking at them like side by side, so naturally your eye is going to gravitate to the most pleasing image that you see. Like our eye understands when things are crooked and not
how do you
proper colors and things like that.
Because you're doing the back office, you're making these things. How are you helping the agent make sure that best foot's forward and that best photo? Because you and I know we've seen listings where they're like showing, I don't know, a living room or the backyard or something, and it's not that first photo that's...
Well, sometimes the backyard can be the stunning front image because if they have an awesome pool with like the screen enclosure, or if it was a twilight session and we've captured this beautiful sunset over the pool, like absolutely that should be your first image. It shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't go with the front image of a home at that point. So I would definitely use like the pool with the sunset. It just depends on what kind of media we've done for them.
Right.
But I would say in 80% of homes, it usually is the front exterior that's your first photo, or even an aerial, depending on the way the home's laid out on the lot and things like that. So it could be either or, but...
Tipping because the drone footage, again, not everyone's doing it because it costs money to do it, but, what are your... your sales pitch on why someone should be... I mean, should we be droning every property?
No, you should not.
No.
So there is a time and a place for aerial images on a property. If it's waterfront, absolutely. If it's a couple blocks from the beach, absolutely. If it's on the riverfront, absolutely. Like, those are no-brainers, right? That's non-negotiable. You should have aerial images.
Because you want to show them how close it is.
If there's a location associated with this home that drives the value up, you have to have aerial images for it. If it's a standard 3-2 in a very, congested neighborhood, and it's not a big lot, and, it just looks like house after house after
standard.
house, like, I think you could do without the aerial images in that situation, because what are you really highlighting in that case?
Unless there's a school that you can see walking distance or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, and that's another point of view. Like, if they're close to the amenities, and you can see the amenities walking distance, or a school, something like that. Or, for instance, over in Nocatee, if they're close, because that's a really big golf cart community, location-wise in there. So there's a time and a place. I mean, we've even had some that are like, no, we're not going to do aerials on these because the neighbors' yards are just completely atrocious. So, obviously, you don't want to highlight that.
Right.
Now, unfortunately...
You can't Photoshop that out?
You can, but that's not ethical, though, is it? I mean, if they ask me to, that's going to be on them. But I have Photoshopped. The biggest thing I've ever had to Photoshop was actually someone had an RV parked in their driveway.
In their driveway while you're doing the...
And then afterwards, they're like, hey, the seller's meant to move that, and I guess they forgot. They were like, can you take it out of the pictures? And I'm like, yeah, give me a day. Like, that's a big task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of humor. We talked about it. I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, so if you need a moment to think about it, I'll ask you another question. But one of the things when I worked at Quicken Loans, we obviously the appraisals come in and they have pictures in them, and if there was something really crazy, occasionally we would obviously, hey, look at this room. We had somebody I remember one time the actual appraisal came back and it was like this dome structure that was abandoned out in Arizona or something. And it's like some people, I assume they thought because it was an online lender that they weren't actually going to check into this. They're just going to lend the money and not actually find out what the property's all about. What are some crazy things that you've seen?
Not really. I mean, I don't think it's really like crazy. A lot of our clients that we work with do a really great job at prepping the property before we get there. So I think it was an awkward situation for sure. Is someone's son did not want to wake up for the photo shoot, so they just threw blankets over him, and they were like, "You can smooth that out, right?" And we're like, I was like but like sometimes like babies will be sleeping in their cribs still, and I'll have to go in and kind of like Photoshop them out of their cribs.
Well, that might be a good good.
Can't wait to sleep in baby up, right? Yeah, but yeah, somebody's teenage son just was like not having it that day, and they were like, "Just throw the blanket over him and shoot the room."
I imagine. Because you guys do such quality work in the homes, I'm sure but you've always got that one that does the shot in, I had a situation story I heard this past weekend. Literally the agent sent over a listing agreement, hadn't even been to the house, and then ordered a photographer to go to the house, and she had never even been in it yet. And the competing listing agent got there and was like, "Oh, hold on, time out. We need a little work done in here." And that's the difference. Like, we're talking about the quality of real estate agents and how you represent them. They're always worried about, the lender being reliable and so forth. But, going out there and telling it straight to some of,
we've had to do that sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, we see ourselves as an extension of our partners' businesses. So if we do get to a property and we're like, hey, this is not going to show well, there's only so much we can even do. Right. You might want to call a cleaner out, or, there's still looks like there's been squatters in here, there's been some.
We see a lot of, my wife picks these out. Like, they'll take a picture of the kitchen and there's stuff on the counter that just put it in the drawer, type of thing. They're just little things like that a professional picks up. That if you're walking around with your cell phone just taking shots, this will give them a good idea what the house looks like. It's more than that.
It's absolutely more than that, because buyers don't need to see your clutter, because they're not buying your stuff. They're buying the house, the walls, not your paper towel holder or things like that. And a lot of times, agents that we work with do a really, really good job though at prepping these listings. That way, when we get there, it is photo ready. That we're not. There's been a couple of times. Actually, here's a funny, not necessarily funny, I wasn't laughing, but I had to help. I get there, and they just finished painting the whole interior. So none of the furniture was against the walls. Like, we're there almost 4 hours. And I had to help move a piano.
Jeepers.
It was a lot, but like between me and the agent and the homeowners that were there, and you can tell like they're frazzled. They've been working really hard to get their house ready to, the appointment probably should have been for the next day. But I was already there, and I'm like, all right, let's just roll our sleeves up. Let's get it done. That's a rare situation.
It's so true in our industry. I talk, to relate it to the loan world is, having a sense of urgency up front, for us to get documents and so forth, and getting the loan in process, because we do run into a road, a bump or something. But on your side, maybe taking that extra day to so you guys can come in and do what you do.
Right.
You're really not being paid to move pianos.
Absolutely not. I'm 100 pounds. I should not be moving pianos.
Exactly. And you could get hurt and stuff like that. But, I had Bobby Brennan on a week ago. We were just doing a little market update, and she was talking about, the staging homes right now is very important. And, coming upon some of those homes where it's like, hey, we really need to like bring a dumpster in or whatever, we need to declutter and so forth. But one of the statistics here, and I wanted to ask you, is about virtual staging. Are you bringing that technology in? Are you able to do that?
Oh yeah, we've been doing that since the beginning. And actually the back of my card is a before and after of some virtual staging, the rack card. And so that's like an as needed basis. Usually, like the vacant homes, the agent will let us know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm thinking about virtual staging on this one. And we take that into consideration when we're shooting it because we want to get a couple extra angles than we typically would. And then once I finish the images, and I will send them back to the agent, and I'll be like, hey, here's the image set. Let me know which shots you want me to go in and virtually stage because it's very labor intensive to do so. And so, because I don't want to pick a couple shots, and they're like, no, I was thinking I like this angle better. And then I'm like, oh, now I got to go move this. So I always have them select the images that they want staged. That way they're getting exactly what they want the first time. But yeah, I don't see it too often, though. I would say maybe like 5 to 10% of listings ask for virtual staging.
Well, the statistics here are virtual staging. 78% of all expired listings are vacant. So make those empty rooms warm and inviting. So
don't let it expire. Get it virtually staged.
So there's a little more work for you to do because there's some intensiveness, and obviously selecting whatever image AI is coming out. So I imagine that it's probably just going to get a little easier for you, but it is labor intensive. I imagine. Are you charging an additional price?
Yes, that's a separate, like a sub-service. It's outside of photography.
Because it's your time.
Right. It's about 3 to 4 hours per image to do. So,
wow, that's a lot more than I would think.
Yeah, that's why I don't like doing them.
You didn't say that.
I did. Well, but the problem is like the markup on it is really, I'm only charging like $30 to $40 an image, just depending on how much is going into it. So we're really not making anything for our time to produce virtual staging. If anything, it's just an asset to pass on to the agent at that point. So that's what I mean as far as,
my first thought is you need to be charging more because I'm thinking the cost to stage and move the furniture in.
The cost of stage is a lot more for sure.
Yeah. And the time and the labor and the sweat that you got to put in to put all that furniture in there and then take it out before.
That's just the cost that we determine the market will allow here in Northeast Florida.
Right.
So.
Okay, so I won't promote because it is work, but sometimes it's just one room.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
you don't have to do the whole house.
No, and usually an agent will pick like a living room shot. Maybe they'll have like a front room. They won't like make it look like a home office, and typically they'll do like a master bedroom.
Right.
So.
Right. Because how many people walk into these rooms and I go, I don't think my king size bed will fit in here. Yeah. Or my couch or whatever. So you have to give them that visual effect on there.
And sometimes like rooms are just laid out a little wonky with these open floor plans. And you've got to fit like a dining room and living room furniture all kind of together in one space. And so that kind of helps them visualize, how the layout and flow of a room can be. Because it is when it's wide open, it's really hard to visualize that.
I heard what you said, but I had a thought in my mind. I'm going to go with this statement here, though. Maybe it'll bring it back to me. Home buyers spend an average of 124 hours finding a new house. Real estate photography plays a huge role in helping them decide which houses to visit on and make offers on. And that goes back to what we kind of started when we started talking about this particular subject. Within seconds, because we are ingrained from the social media, we flip a reel in, the reels that don't have a lot of views, TikTok will tell you it's because within 3 seconds they're already moving on to the next one. What is it that you're impacting? So you working back office, what are some of the things like on that initial shot, like the first foot that we were talking about, that first step, the first shot they see? What are some things that you do to really make it pop?
Well, you always start with like your good raw image first. You have to start with a clean. We do like a bracketing where we take. It's the same shot, and it's like 5, and we have to layer them, and that's where it gives a lot of depth. It corrects for shadows and everything, and then once all of those are kind of stacked together, the 5 become one image. From then, I will go in, and I'm kind of cleaning up little things, like if there's like little bitty pieces of weeds, like in the sidewalks or in the driveway, or like a couple of stains. Now, if the whole driveway stained, that's a different ballgame. But like here and there, like maybe if the seller had their car parked there and there's where the AC was running or something.
Right.
Just like small little cleanup details. A lot of the times, actually on all the images, I'll do sky swaps, which is where I replace the sky because they're blown out in photos because it's a lot of light, and it'll be blue with clouds or, just it just makes
Softer,
the house pop a lot more.
Yeah, make the house
Yes.
stand out versus the sky.
And then I can go in and I actually, I have clients that like this, and then I have clients that don't like this. So I do this with every single job is I will deliver the images, the grass, how it is, like as is. And then I send them the same exterior set with grass with it greened up and like kind of retouched. And then that way I don't have to remember like who likes green grass and who doesn't. I just send them both. Like, so
well, it shows your value. It shows this is what I did. I worked on this.
Yeah, so I always make sure that they have both choices, and because some are really adamant about like, no, it's January, nobody has green grass. I'm going to use the original ones. I'm like, well, that's great. They're already in your folder for you. But some agents want it to be green grass because it's going to be green in about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But little things like that will carry the photo a long way.
This is 74% of real. This is talking about the time of the day when photos are taken makes a difference. 74% of real estate agents said they were interested in or already using photography taken at sunset or twilight.
Yes.
How are you making that happen, or are you planning that?
So when an agent contacts us, and usually you'll see the twilight sessions on higher end homes. We basically discuss like, okay, well, how big is the home? Where's it located? What day are you thinking? Because I have to go in and figure out what time is sunset. Where's it at? How far of a commute is this for us? What all services do you want us to do while we're there? And I have to kind of like back up the timeline. And there's some times where, not recently, but I think last year we had a house that was full media package. They wanted a video, Matterport tour, aerials, like they wanted a twilight session. So we had to show up at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and we were there shooting until sunset. So, I have to take all that into consideration. And then obviously the size of the house plays a factor too. And does it have a pool? Like, are there community amenities that need shot as well? But, the twilight photography is actually one of my favorite things to deliver because a house looks totally different in with those twilight sessions than it does during the daytime images. And most recently, we did a job for Luke and Sadie Newcomer.
Yep, they've been on the show.
And they wanted a sunset and a twilight because the house was just that fabulous. And it just sold, I think it's 35 Mulberry. And it was
that the one you had on the Facebook?
I'm sure it was.
I saw Luke was kind of looking over the balcony or something.
It was like a really good deal for them to, sell. And it went under contract in 10 days. And I guess, they were like really kind of surprised by that because it was like I think 2.8 million. So, and I mean in this case, like in that price point, you want to go all in on your media.
You got to, you're on the beach like that. You got to sell the sunrise, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it's
they
all
wanted
about.
the sunrise and the sunset. So they were like, and halt, we want it all. Like, and so I'm like, all right, let's get it scheduled.
Well, those are the beauty of our area. You're out there, and you got the intercoastal on one side, the ocean on the other, and for sure, and they're doing great business down there, Luke, and I think they really do a first class. I see his videos, and I understand his ideology. He understands the market that he's in, and tries to deliver with the highest quality service, knowing that's going to get him the next deal and so on. You mentioned video.
Yes.
What are some techniques that you guys like? I'm using this word loosely. We see a lot of agents on Saturday morning. They go, "Hey, I got an open house," and they're walking through with their phone, which is great for a Saturday morning to say, "Hey, I'm here, and this is the house." But really, what are some things that you guys are doing on a professional level that obviously the amateurs are not?
Okay, so when it comes to video, and I have seen a huge increase in video bookings in the past 2 years. A lot more agents are coming on board and utilizing that in their marketing. But yeah, a lot of them, you want to keep your videos to 60 seconds or less. Like, no one has the attention span for super long videos, so that's something that I keep in mind when I'm editing and I'm putting clips together. Jake goes out and captures all the raw clips and everything, and it just depends on the features of the home, and then if it's in a neighborhood, Like, for instance, if we shoot one that's up in Neptune Beach, like, we're going to include shots of Beaches Town Center and, you know, things in the area to go along with the house, because that's a lot of the value is where it's located. And that is really good because you're selling a lifestyle in a video. It's not just images at this point anymore where you're collecting data about the contents and the interior of a home. You're showing, like, hey, this is this house. Is this the life you want to live? In this area and whatnot. And so that's what you really want to convey in your videos. Now, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong when agents jump on to do like a quick live when they're at an open house and just kind of walking through. Like, I think that's great. I don't think that it should replace professional videography, though.
Yeah.
I think it's a great supplement to add in. It gets, you know, it gets your audience still engaged with you. It lets them know where you're at, for sure.
People are more likely to clip on the video. Right? Isn't, I mean, we talk about emails and who's going to read your email. Well, if you put a video in it, it's going to get more hits.
Yes.
More people are going to open it. Where if you on Saturday morning, you should be doing that. Hey, I'm here.
In addition
in addition to.
Yes.
You used the term lifestyle.
Yes.
Which I think is extremely important. Why people come to Florida. I mean,
100%.
Yeah. I mean, these people that are coming down here and, you know, from up north, they will visualize the vacation, you know, thing, because they always vacation. I always thought one perception I always had is like a lot of people come here because they came here for years on vacation, but now they moved here and they're still on vacation and realizing, okay, you still have to work.
Yeah.
We know.
It's a hard life.
But if you were explaining to an agent who might be new, or maybe we have a lot of senior agents that haven't evolved, and maybe they're stuck in their business because they aren't using video. I had George Guerrera he's down in Miami. He has nearly 500 agents, in a company he's created over the last 15 years, and he said back in 2006 and 2007, before it was so easy just to pop a video on YouTube where you actually had to go through this whole thing to get a video on the internet, he feels the real estate agent of the future, the 2034, 2044 agent, is going to be like a newscaster or talk show person, and is going to have that video personality, because that's what people are going to be attracted. Are you guys doing any videos with the agent or just the house?
The ones that want to be in it, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not so common though. A lot of agents do not want to be in their videos. So
what do you think that is?
Same reason why I was
nervous coming out
today. Yeah. I'm sure. But it's one of those things, like once you do it, once you rip the Band-Aid off, you can go back and you can look at it and you can critique it and be like, all right, I don't like that I did X, Y, and Z, but I want to try this now. And then that's even the case when we shoot our videos. If the client will look at, they're like, all right, can we redo that take? And it's just working together to create a product that we're both proud of.
Right.
So.
But you sort of coach, or Jake coaches them a little bit on the video, and it's like I guess if you call it coaching you before you came on.
Yeah.
The reality is, those who love you know your quirks. They know.
Right. And that we're all human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the more, they were talking about at RA Bar Camp last week, because, obviously social media and videos a big thing at any real estate thing, even though it's like virtually untapped as far as the professionals, the amount of agents using video consistently and so forth. They want to see the real you. So we go back to that branding thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have professional photos, but to maybe do a short clip with you in there, because they're seeing you. Mm-hmm. There's talk, because like I said, a lot of these people from wherever, they don't know you yet, but if they're seeing you on YouTube and they're seeing you in your things, they start to create.
They're becoming familiar with you before you've even met them.
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing about social media, and how you can reach people that you never even have to physically meet. Mm-hmm. And you can do business with them. I have clients I've never even met in person, and I've been doing this 8 years.
I've done complete loans over Facebook Instant Messenger. I think we covered all the statistics. We talked about furniture. What is the agents that you have, I assume, are giving you guys some feedback. Tell me about some of the, I want to hear some of the success stories, okay, but maybe some of the things they're like, say, you guys are really good at that, but could you do this better? What are, and how you guys evolved with that to continually move forward and be better every day?
Well, I would say really we don't get complaints often. And when we do, they're really minor.
What would be what's a complaint that you might get every once in a while?
Maybe, okay, so for one instance, I have one client, and he used to actually be a professional photographer.
Okay, so he's a little extra picky.
I wouldn't call him picky at all.
Right.
Like, no. It was funny, actually, he booked when I was getting ready for the show this morning, he actually texted me to schedule something for next week. And when I got in the parking lot, I said, hey, I'm here. And he's like, I'm not, though, LOL. I'm like, whoops, wrong person. That's just kind of like the relationship that I do enjoy that I have with our clients.
Right.
It's very just a one-on-one. But yeah, no, he'll come back sometimes and be like, hey, they just painted this room. It looks a little bit more salmon than ish pink or whatever it is. And then I'll be like, hey, no problem. What is the paint color name? Like, is it Sherwin-Williams? Is it Behr? Who is it? Tell me the name. I will go in and I'll personally match the paint color to that specific name to make sure it's perfect. I mean, the sellers put a lot of in editing.
In editing?
Yes.
You actually can get down in your editing. Wow, I did not know that.
And he's
you actually
that
put in there
particular.
Sherwin-Williams in their code, and it immediately.
Yes, and then I can color match the walls in the photograph to the color card on Sherwin-Williams' website.
Oh, wow.
And there's some agents that want that level of detail in their images, and that's great. Not everybody wants it to be the perfect shade of pink. So, but I've seen it for years. There's some people that like to color their rooms with some, or let their kids paint their rooms whatever color. But if you are able to go in there. And in that same instance, we can go in, let's say it's yellow, and it's a highlighter yellow, I can go in and make them gray.
So you couldn't take a black and make it white.
Yes,
you can go that drastically and just that right there is huge, especially even for because you do have these situations and the people aren't going to maybe it's a distress sale in one way, shape, or form or another.
Right.
But you're able to give the new or possible buyer an image of what that room would look like.
Once it's repainted.
We've all seen the silly videos where they're recording the buyers walking through the house and they're making comments like about the furniture or the paint on the walls, which are the easiest things to change.
Absolutely.
But that's a negative thing that they put in mind.
It doesn't matter. Once that negative image is in play, they can't think past that. A lot of people cannot visualize renovations and changes.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had someone that's gone where this like really we can't, but can we make it look like we want to sell it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it was a lot
of work.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And then there's some
Did it
properties
work?
like when you mentioned. I think it was for one of our architect clients. Like they were wanting to see a different like kitchen cabinet or something. I can't even remember. It was like 5 years ago.
Okay.
So it doesn't happen often. I don't think it's necessarily applicable in real estate in the way that it moves as quickly as it does. And a lot of flippers just come in and kind of like gut their space anyway, and so they're not really photographing it before. They just care about their after at that point.
Yeah, they know what they want to make the house look like. It's those buyers that don't have that creativity in their mind and go, well, I'm going to change the color of this wall, and I can see it this color.
Well, I think a lot of times that's when the agents will go back to the sellers and be like, hey, I think we need to paint. Mm-hmm. Or things like that. But because like me color editing it in an image doesn't change the actual property. It's still a problem. Mm-hmm. I just, made it look different in a photo. It doesn't change that the walls are still that color.
What kind of, go back to the, in the success story arena, but I mean, obviously one of the statistics in here, I don't know where it's at. Obviously we know staging, professional photography, it's helping him sell, but our agents coming back with comments like, they're actually getting above the asking price because of the professional photography. We're getting more offers or more because more people saw the house, right?
And I think that's hard to actually say that with certainty that this is the reason why.
Yes.
I think that they're all selling tools and they, collectively we all work together as a team and we're selling this property. I can't ever say that, my photos are the reason why this house sold for more or faster. Like, I don't think that the data, I just don't think that I can make that claim.
I agree with you there.
I think the agent does a lot of work, and that would be me trying to,
I think a lot, so it's like social media. You know, well, I've been doing social media, whatever, and I haven't gotten any calls. Well, you don't know.
You don't know what seeds are being planted either.
Right. What seeds are planted,
Right.
or did that person see your ad over here? Did they go to your social media and say, oh, this person's put together, they show houses really well. I like that. I'm calling them. So, it may not be that the initial thing, but it was people are going on and they're doing their due diligence on you and through social media, LinkedIn, etc.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of data you can collect from someone's social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see how this person present the home, but I think from the standpoint, if I was to bottom line our discussion, the images, the presentation that you put together for that seller is being seen by other sellers. If in this market right now, as competitive as the agents are telling me, as far as people are interviewing 2 or 3, whatever amount of agents, those pictures that you showed, even if it was $100,000 home, but you made it look like $1 million, that's the person they're going to likely go with.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully this in this season of real estate that we're in right now, maybe this will raise the bar on the expectation that the standards are that you should use professional photography when you're marketing your seller's listings.
Right.
That would be the goal.
The other thing that George Guerrero said was, not only about, being the newscaster or talk show person host, being in the video type of thing. He felt that, his entire business started, he in his mind, he wanted to make a movie about every house he listed, and if you have that vision, now maybe, he's down in Miami, you can see these Miami Vice houses, right? You know what I'm saying? And you can play the music in the background and someone may be visualizing them being in the Miami Vice show or whatever, right? But that goes back to the lifestyle. Are you able to put the person that's watching the video in the house and making them feel the heat of the fire or the coolness of the breeze, or looking at that swimming pool and wanting to jump in?
Right. So, and that's the difference between videography and photography. Photography is it's a 2D image, and you're collecting data when you look at it. Where videography invokes emotions, and people make emotional purchases. That's how people decide if they're going to buy something or not, is if they have an emotional attachment to what they see and they like. And video is a great way to do that, to sell what it feels like to walk from one to the next, or to hear like the sounds in the backyard or things like that. But yeah,
well, I think the unmeasurable thing, as we were just talking about the social media, or did the photography get the extra dollars that we're seeing sometimes some of these houses that are presented, or getting the full boat offer on a $2.8 million house, right? I mean, did it do? We don't know, but
I think it would be extremely hard to sell a $2.8 million house without professional media.
Right.
For sure.
Or even getting hired.
Right.
To be the listing agent, you have to come in. So there's many agents that all want to, sell luxury homes. Of course, they tell me the definition of luxury home is, I forget they soften it down. I think the common person thinks luxury home, they think of price point.
Right.
They agents soften it down to the value add that they bring in the luxury. But I think they don't get the luxury endorsements and talk about $200,000 homes there. They're talking about the $2 million, $3 million house. So I think there was a record sale recently.
It's like $22 million, the one in Ponte Vedra Beach. Yeah.
That listing agent, now I may be proven wrong. I didn't look at the listing, don't know the address, but I guarantee you, I mean, they spent a good dollar on the photography, because the person looking for that isn't walking that street every day. He's somewhere else. He's traveling. They're busy.
The person that purchased that, which I think it's anonymous, may have never even seen this house in person yet.
Right.
That's how powerful the photography and videography could be.
Right. 100%. Anything you want to, I don't know what the question was. When you did the house where you said you came in early afternoon and stayed till sunset, 4 or 5 hours, right? You were there. How much time are you spending? That's Jake's doing that. Yeah. How much time are you spending?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's a great question. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much work goes into the back end. So For every hour, let's say Jake is at a house and he's shooting it, and I budget an hour for our basic, shoots. It's about 9 hours of post processing. And actually, I don't want to say post processing. From me taking the initial, like, hey, I got a listing, this is what's coming up. Sometimes I'll have 4 or 5 conversations with that agent, helping them, like, all right, well, it's not ready yet. Let me know. Is it going to be vacant, occupied? Like, just getting all the details so that we can get this appointment set. He goes out, he shoots it. He comes back, uploads the media to me. I wake up to raw files in the morning. I got to start turning and burning, stacking those images, and
because a lot of times those agents want them.
They want. We do next business day. There's and I've heard different varying degrees of what some other companies, like, their turnaround times or not. I just say next business day. Because if it's shot at 3:00, at 3:01 the next day, I don't want them to be like, hey, do you have my pictures? Because we could have shot 7 houses before your 3 p.m. that day before.
Right.
And that means I have 8 that I have to, and I gotta go in order.
Right.
My guy, like,
first come, first serve.
That 10 a.m. wants their photos first. So, it can be labor intensive sometimes. But yeah, I've read the statistics, 9 hours of posts or of behind the scenes work for 1 hour of what you see in person. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you had the ideal world with the agent and we're talking to them, and the ideal world is, you went and had your listing appointment. They're going to have professional photos. They want to get with you as soon as possible, but try to set the expectation with the seller that, hey, we're going to have professional photos. So I'm not going to get it listed here. It may take another 48 to 72 hours because I want to make sure the photos are done correctly. So when we launch.
Right. And then, see, that's a conversation that the agent has with their client, their seller. Like, hey, we just signed the listing paperwork, and they've walked through the home at that point, and they'll give them tips like, hey, let's declutter this room or that room. Like, they obviously, everyone involved in the transaction wants the house to show as best as possible. So they'll give them little tips so that it's prepared when we book it 3 or 4 days later, whenever that happens. Sometimes they like, hey, I've signed it. How quick can you get here? It's ready to go. It just depends because every single home sale is unique.
Yeah.
Like, no home is the same.
Right. So it's for a possible new client that might be listening, interested in your services, is to have that consultation with you on setting up a proper timing. Don't commit to a listing date until they've spoken to you, because again, the house might not be ready yet. You might be able to get out there tomorrow because you just happened to be in the area, and you might be able to swing by and shoot it.
There
no
might
problem.
have been a small time gap in between 2 other homes that I'm like, yeah, we can squeeze it in here. But if it's not ready, you've wasted everybody's time.
Exactly. The house is not ready, decluttered, cleaned, all those things that you need to do to prep the home. So having that, and it's a logistics thing on their end.
It is.
But you're there to help.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Everyone wants, like, great images as their end product, so we all kind of will work together to make that happen.
Well, I did not know all these statistics until I went on and just researching before the show. And I mean, if you're looking at these numbers, and if you were playing baseball, you're getting the professional photography done because you're going to hit the ball more than not. With that, and obviously consulting, which you've been doing this now since 2016, so you guys are 8 years into this. How do you? I mean, you've had to learn how to use this technology, this software. How many different? I would imagine your software has changed. You've gotten new because you're always trying to stay up with what's the latest and greatest.
I mean, we're constantly evolving when it comes to what we're using software-wise, like updating our camera bodies, getting new camera lenses. We've went through 3 different Matterport models. I mean, even on the Zillow side of things, that's I think it's the Zeta. We always want to get, like, the higher-end version of it, too. But, I mean, because you can use your cell phone and create a Zillow 3D from it. You're not going to get the same results. As the professional gear that we've spent the time and money to invest in. So,
but how much off-hour time have you had to put in? Because every time you go to, I imagine you've probably changed your editing software a few times in 8 years, and it's like a real estate office changing their CRM. Going to you got to train everybody on it. You've had to train yourself on these new. What are a couple of things that you do to try to stay? Are you listening to certain individuals? Are you is there a certain magazine you read to try
Yes.
to you're trying
Well,
to stay
not a
sharp?
magazine, but so it's Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom for editing, and yeah, it is
Adobe
overwhelming.
has you feel the best product for
Well,
what you're doing?
it just depends. Sometimes I'll bounce back and forth. It just depends on what we're doing. But I do have a mentor, and it's ironic because his name is Sean, and he does the North Carolinas. His business is in vision photography, and he's been doing it the same amount of time. Him and I are Navy buddies.
Okay.
Right. So we were in the military together. We were our ships. Like I was on one ship, and he was on the ship on the pier next to me. Right. And it was just so funny that one day. I happened to be in the Matterport Service Facebook group, right? There's a Facebook group for us. And I had seen like a graphic or something that Matterport put out, and it had him quoted. And I was like, what? I was like, that is so odd. So I reached out to him, and I'm like, this is so weird that we're doing the same exact thing. We had the same job in the Navy, too. So, like, him and I will actually jump on calls and, like, kind of, keep each other, up to date and everything. And he's actually launched some new products that I've been collaborating with him on to bring to our market. And so I'm really excited about that. But it's just nice to have, like, someone that's not in Jacksonville, and we can bounce each other.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, because he might experience something or a new program, software app, whatever comes. When it comes to that back the expenses of what you do? We don't need to use dollar amounts, but obviously the amateur. We got I can take the video here and go into CapCut. It's not costing me anything, right? There's those levels of service, but when you get to the level of what you're doing. Or is it more? Are you buying it or subscribing? In other words, are you?
Oh, it's all subscription.
All
based.
subscription based. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think you can buy like licensing anymore.
It's not worth it, is it? Really? You're better off leasing it because it might only be good for 12 months.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, like back in the day, you used to be able to like Microsoft Office. You could buy it, and like you can't anymore. You have to. It's like $100 a year now to have a Microsoft Office license. So. It's similar. It's all just subscription
because they're updating it.
Yes,
that's the benefit of being the subscription is they're constantly working on that original platform. They're constantly improving it. Versus if you purchased it, it's like buying the car after the warranty's out. It's yours.
I don't think. I don't think there's any that even do it like that anymore.
Yeah. The subscription base. Well, they want you as a long-term customer.
Everybody knows that they want repeat business, so that they'll set it up. So you're paying monthly instead of one fee up front.
Anything you want to add that we did not talk about? What's your? I'm not to put you on the complete pressure, but when you are talking to new real estate, maybe you're at a social or something when you have time away from the girls. When an agent asks you what to do, and you have that 60 seconds, 90 seconds to get them a pitch. What are some of the things you're doing, and what is the best way you like to start to create a relationship with agents? Hey, I met you there. Let's go get a cup of coffee. What do you like to do?
So usually when I'm meeting somebody, I just like to make that connection. Like I'll just say, hey, I'm Deidra. I have a photography company. Here's my card. Let me know if you need my help. Like I said in the very beginning, people don't really want to be sold to. And usually in those situations, like everybody's kind of walking around with like elevator spills, and most of the people there are agents anyway. And I think them just knowing who I am, me making that connection, and then when the time comes, because they may not need me right then in that moment,
right.
But
probably most likely not.
Building that relationship leads to maybe in a couple weeks when they do get a listing, they're going to give me a call or something. And usually I'll connect with them on social media. I'll be like, hey, just send me a Facebook friend request or follow me on Instagram or something. And then like once we start building that relationship, it's a good chance that they're going to end up being a client in the near future without me having to really be like, here's my list of services and because like people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So I'm not a good salesman though. I think I'm authentic, and I just build relationships naturally and organically, and that's been great for us.
What would an agent that's been working with you for whatever period of time, what is the expectation that you have created for them? What are they, if another agent was talking to another, say, hey, you need to call Deidra and Jake because...
They probably would.
Why? What do you think the other agents are saying about you? They're talking behind your back.
Well, they're saying great things then. Cause
Well, I mean, I'm setting you up to brag about. I'm setting you up to brag about yourself. I mean, I think.
Oh, that's why I'm uncomfortable.
No, because I mean, like one of the most simplest thing in our industry is picking up the phone. I mean, when people are like, "Yeah, I called this loan officer and he doesn't return my phone call," I'm like, "Is that all you need?" I mean, because I pride myself on if I see an agent's number pop up on my phone or a text message that, if I didn't respond within 10, 15 minutes, maybe a text message came across and I didn't see it. And I'll go, oh my God, they texted me 20 minutes ago and I respond. I feel bad. Yeah. Because I want to respond right away.
Right.
What can they expect out of you and Jake as far as?
Well, that's a pretty good indicate or what we would do. Like, for instance, this last weekend I was down at Disney and there's a builder that we work for, and I work hand in hand with the regional marketing director for this builder, and he's like, hey, he sends me a text like, hey, I got 3 new homes ready for photos, and I'm waiting in line for the bus to go from Hollywood Studios over to Magic Kingdom. I'm like, all right, let me pop them on the schedule. I got you down for Monday.
Right.
Like they know that they can reach me no matter where I'm at. Like, I don't necessarily have office hours, and that's just the industry in itself, though, and I think that's something I learned very quickly is I have to meet them where they're at. Like they don't run office hours either. They're doing the same things I'm doing. They have children and they have homes that they have to take care of and kids with homework. And so if it's 9:00 at night, once their kids are in bed and now they're reaching out to me, I'm going to do my best. If I'm still awake, I'm going to text back, like, all right, let's get you on the schedule. Or, if they call, maybe I'm on another call or something. I actually have an auto
They want to get it off their to-do list.
Yeah.
They know, hey, I got to get photography for that thing. So they don't wait till Monday morning at 9 o'clock to call you.
Just send me a text.
Yeah.
Like, I'm available 7 days a week, no matter where I'm at. I don't really take vacation, so.
Well, and say from our industry, that's the way they operate.
That's the way it works, though. It does. Yeah. So you have to operate like them to be successful with them.
100%. Anything you want to add?
Oh, this is a lot of talking for me.
You did, and you did very well.
Thank you.
It was a great show, and I think a lot of people are hopefully that are listening or listen to this later or listen to it next year. Got to learn a little bit about you, but iSite in general and the level of service that you